The legacy sports media seems to be turning their backs on the Indiana Fever minus Caitlin Clark. It is now official. It is a PR nightmare for the Indiana Fever.
The Indiana Fever are in survival mode. The playoffs are slipping closer and closer, and yet their brightest star, Caitlin Clark, is still stuck on the sidelines. On Sunday night, the Fever fell once again, this time to the Minnesota Lynx, marking their 4th loss in 5 games. And here's the painful truth. They're battling for a postseason spot without the one player who was supposed to carry them there. Clark hasn't played since mid-July due to a groin injury. That's 15 straight games without her on the court. But don't think for a second she's invisible. From pre-game warm-ups to sideline leadership to connecting with fans, Clark is still the heartbeat of this team, even if she's not suiting up. But can Indiana survive this playoff chase without her? And is her presence from the bench enough to inspire a postseason push? Let's break it down in 5 explosive points. Even though Caitlin Clark hasn't been in uniform, she's far from absent. Before the Fever's game against the Lynx, Clark joined her teammates on the floor for light drills and shoot-around. She wasn't sprinting, she wasn't cutting. But she was out there moving, shooting, and reminding everyone that she's still part of this team's heartbeat. During the game, Clark's impact was obvious. Every time the Fever huddled, there she was. Leaning in, talking to teammates, breaking down plays, and supporting her coach. This is rare for a rookie. Most rookies sit quietly and soak up knowledge, not Clark. She's already acting like a leader, a veteran voice in the room. This isn't surprising. Leadership has always been part of Clark's DNA. At Iowa, she wasn't just the best scorer. She was the one directing traffic, motivating teammates, and setting the tone. Now, in the WNBA, she's doing the same, even in street clothes. Her injury may have taken her body out of the lineup, but it hasn't silenced her voice. And that matters more than people realize. Because in a playoff race where every possession counts, mental focus and chemistry are just as important as points and assists. Clark's sideline presence gives her teammates energy. It reminds them of the bigger picture. It says, "We're not just playing for now, we're building something bigger." Clark's influence doesn't stop with her teammates. It spills into the stands. During the Lynx game, a small but powerful moment proved that. When the action stopped, Clark leaned over to chat with young kids seated near the Fever bench. With a smile, she encouraged them to cheer for Indiana instead of the home team. It was lighthearted, funny, and unforgettable for those kids. That's the kind of thing that cements a bond between star and fan base. This is Caitlin Clark's power. Even while injured, she connects. She knows the cameras are on her. She knows the fans are watching her every move. And instead of withdrawing, she leans into it. She makes the game an experience, not just for the players, but for the people who paid to be there. That's why she's more than a box score. Her presence sells tickets. Her interactions make memories. Her name is what brings casual fans into arenas, many for the first time. And when she engages with them, even in little moments, it creates loyalty that lasts beyond a single game. In the WNBA, where building fan relationships is crucial for growth, Clark is showing why she's a once-in-a-generation marketing machine. Injured or not, she's moving the needle. Let's not dance around it. The Indiana Fever are a completely different team without Caitlin Clark. Before her injury, Clark wasn't just putting up Rookie of the Year numbers. She was running the show. She averaged 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, and 5 rebounds, and those stats don't even tell the full story. Her passing stretched defenses. Her three-point shooting forced teams to cover more ground. Her leadership gave Indiana stability late in games. In short, she was the engine. Now that engine is gone, and it shows. Without Clark, Indiana's offense looks stuck in mud. They can run plays, they can push pace, but when it comes to half-court sets, where playoff games are won and lost, they look lost. Defenses aren't stretched anymore because Clark isn't there to pull defenders 25 feet from the basket with her shooting range. Instead, they're collapsing the paint, suffocating Aaliyah Boston inside, and daring Indiana's guards to beat them. That's why Boston, one of the most talented young bigs in the game, is often frustrated, because without Clark spacing the floor, she's facing double teams every time she touches the ball. Kelsey Mitchell has tried to shoulder the offensive load, and to her credit, she's been fighting every night. But Mitchell isn't a floor general like Clark. She's a scorer. She's wired to get buckets. Without Clark alongside her, she's being asked to do everything: score, create, and lead. And that's too much for one player against elite defenses. The loss to the Lynx was another painful reminder. Indiana managed 84 points, but it was a grind. Their ball movement wasn't crisp, their spacing was off, and in crunch time, when Minnesota clamped down, the Fever didn't have that one playmaker to steady the ship. That's where Clark's absence is felt most. Late in games, when every possession matters and her decision-making is usually the difference. And it's not just offense. Clark's leadership affects the defense too. When she's on the floor, her energy feeds into the team. When she's absent, the defense looks disconnected. That's why Indiana has dropped 4 of its last 5 games. They're missing the glue that holds everything together. Make no mistake, Clark isn't just a star scorer, she's the system itself. Without her, Indiana is surviving game to game, patching holes and hoping someone steps up. With her, they're a team with identity, swagger, and rhythm. That's why every game without Clark feels like an uphill battle. Here's the brutal reality. The WNBA playoff race is a war zone, and the Fever are walking into it without their best weapon. At 1917, Indiana is clinging to one of the last postseason spots. That sounds okay on paper, but in reality, it's a razor-thin margin. In the WNBA, where only 8 teams make the playoffs, one bad week, 2 or 3 straight losses, can send you plummeting from 6th place to out of contention. That's how tight the standings are. This is why every game feels like a must-win, and every night without Clark feels like a risk. The Fever are in the middle of a stretch where their margin for error is basically zero. Coach Stephanie White is doing everything she can to keep the team afloat. She's hammering home discipline, defense, and effort. But at some point, heart isn't enough. Talent wins in this league. Depth wins, and right now, Indiana doesn't have enough of either without Clark. That's what makes this situation a pressure cooker, because the Fever face an impossible choice. Do you protect Clark's long-term health, knowing she's the future of the franchise, even if it means the playoffs slip away this season? Or do you push her timeline, try to get her back sooner than later, and risk re-injury in the hopes of saving the present? It's a lose-lose situation. Fans, of course, are restless. They see the standings, they see other teams gaining ground, and they're asking, when is Caitlin coming back? Some want her rushed back immediately. Others understand the long-term risk, but fear the Fever will be irrelevant by the time she returns. That's the tension boiling over in Indianapolis. For the players, it's just as heavy. Every time they step on the court, they know the math. They can't afford mistakes, they can't afford bad shooting nights, and that kind of pressure wears you down. You could see it in their body language against Minnesota. Frustration, exhaustion, and the feeling of always being just one play short. This playoff chase without Clark isn't just a test of skill, it's a test of survival. And right now, Indiana looks like a team holding its breath, hoping the clock doesn't run out before their star comes back. Here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Even though Caitlin Clark isn't playing, her legend is still growing. Think about it. Most rookies, when they get injured, fade into the background. They sit quietly, rehab in silence, and fans move on until they're healthy again. But not Clark. Even on the bench, she's still the headline. During the Lynx game, cameras caught her laughing with fans, talking with teammates, and giving constant energy from the sideline. That moment where she leaned over to young kids near the Fever bench and playfully told them to cheer for Indiana instead of Minnesota? That wasn't just cute. It was brand building. It showed why she's more than a stat line. She's a connector. She knows how to make fans feel part of the story. That's why kids adore her, why crowds still show up in record numbers even when she's not playing. And it's not just about charm. Clark's presence is tangible. Her teammates look to her for guidance. She's in the huddles, breaking things down. She's talking with the coaches, giving feedback. That's leadership most rookies don't touch until year 4 or 5. But Clark, she's already there. Off the court, her influence is massive. Her Nike logo reveal just shook the sports world. She's already signed the biggest endorsement deal in women's basketball history. She's on billboards, commercials, and TV spots. Even while injured, she dominates headlines. That's unheard of. Here's the bottom line. Clark doesn't need to be on the floor to matter. Her legend is growing because she's proving she's bigger than the game itself. She's a cultural force, a marketing juggernaut, and a leader beyond her years. And when she finally returns, it won't just be about points and assists. It'll feel like a rebirth. The Fever will feel that energy. The fans will feel it. The entire WNBA will feel it. Whether Indiana sneaks into the playoffs or not, Clark's impact this season proves one thing loud and clear. She's not just the future of the Fever. She's the future of women's basketball.